These are just my reflections. The first time I met Father Theodore was in the novitiate, and my first impression was my last one too. I met a man who was gentle, amiable, smiling, comfortable with self, and comfortable with others. It was 1942. 1945 was when he taught us fundamental theology in Jamaica. As Columkill mentioned, always well prepared, clear, an easy mode of presentation, most amenable to questions. I'd like to particularly point out, at that point, I saw that he was a man who was a great confessor, extremely kind, understanding, really helpful, always available, no sense of rush, even though at those times he was having some physical problems, as Joe mentioned, which needed much attention. At the same time, he was always concerned about his sister Marie, who was experiencing severe problems at that time and was hospitalized in the New York area. I bring up the question of confessor because some years ago when I was on the committee for Theodore's cause, Jerome Verb wrote a paper, which I shared with the committee at the time, and felt that the theme that should be used for the cause of Theodore Foley was his incredible availability to all and his masterful skills as a confessor to penitents. This reputation as a confessor was known wherever he was. In Rome, Theodore was available, despite his many detailed and prestigious duties, to the requests of the citizens of Rome and heard the confessions of religious men and women, especially brothers from divergent communities. One of these, Brother Randall Reed, a Xaverian brother, then retired recently as a librarian at North American College. After more than 30 years in Rome, now resides in Brooklyn. He claims Theodore is the holiest man he has ever met. Brother Randall is but one representative of a cultus which exists outside the congregation and who keeps alive the spirit of fervor and self-discipline which he inherited from the patient direction of Father Theodore. There are other members in the same movement. They live in England, Ireland, the United States, Spain, the Benelux countries, and in Italy. All of these are the recipients of a rich benefaction which they received through Theodore Foley's incredibly insightful and comforting skills as a confessor. I recommend that this spirit is not ordinary and that it stands as a model not only for passionate confessors, but as a ready invitation to all confessors and penitents to identify the gift of mercy as the quiddity of the sacrament of reconciliation. Therefore, the suggestion of the theme of the humble and pastoral priest as confessor to be the principle for this cause of canonization. In 1949, Theodore preached my first Mass. His homily I shall never forget. It was clear, powerful. The world needs a priest because the world needs the truth of God and the world needs the love of God. 1955 and 56, he was Hartford. He was director of students in Hartford, and I was teaching there at the time. In that capacity, I found a man who was always kind, cooperative with the lectors, won the confidence by two of his students, and the deep respect of the lectors. Point out a special kindness to our brothers. Regularly, he took walks with Brother Simon. Above all, there was a sensitivity in Theodore in expressing gratitude to the lectors with whom he worked. The next time I lived with Theodore was in Rome from 1962 to 64, during the time of the council, and at that time, Theodore was the general consultor. Theodore resided in Rome since 1958. My experience of him in Rome was the same. A kind man, utterly selfless, compassionate, a man for whom Rome was not an easy assignment. Different culture, he didn't know the language. Theodore told me he never wanted to be a superior. During the council, he was always the kind, compassionate man as always. He endeared himself to all, but especially to the Italians and the Spanish, as Columkill pointed out. They called him their Papa Giovan. He would always come to the English recreation at nighttime and always be selflessly available to the university students and any of those who wanted to go to him. Often I would stop in Theodore's room early in the morning. We used to say Mass together about 4:30 or 5. I'd go to his room about 6 in the morning. He'd be sitting at the desk writing letters, many of which he wrote by hand, most faithful in responding to letters. The day of the election in 1964, I went into his room at 6 in the morning, and I said, "I hope you're ready. You'll be general by tonight." First he said, "Oh, no, Sylvan." But then I looked at me, he said, "Sylvan, the only reason I would say no would be sheer selfishness." He was one of the most selfless persons I've ever known. The 1970s, the difficult times in the church. He had deep concern for the congregation. He wrote this in a letter. "I will do my best, but the way will not be smooth. I'm not looking for easy solutions, but I do wish that the perennial values, many of which are in shadow, will be renewed until such a day when many will regain the supernatural viewpoint that is now lacking. Please pray that the chapter will declare the truth in our regard clearly, bravely, completely. In this disintegrating period of religious life, we need centers of prayer and recollection and penance. Such places will have much more and more influence for good, which none of us can properly estimate." Father Theodore was always a tremendous support for the House of Solitude. His words were simple, encouraging. He wrote to us, "Please hold on at any cost." Amidst of all his concern and stress, he was always available to receive visitors from the States or elsewhere and to host them generously and graciously. He wrote one time in 1970, "I am in good health, except that I'm too fat and too weak to take the efficacious means to get my weight down. Mine is a pasta paunch." This was the general that I knew. He was fearless in speaking the truth. As Columkill pointed out, the situation with the Philippines, I remember that very day myself, when he said, "We will do that." His question of prayer at the chapter, he just got up and said, "There will be 1 hour of prayer." And then one time in recreation in Hartford, I probably saw him the angriest I ever saw him, but controlled. Someone made a stupid, heretical remark in all seriousness, and he just turned on him with fire in his eyes and said, "No, this is the man that I think, we hope, we will someday be able to canonize." He was a man that I said in the beginning was a man of principle, a man of utter kindness, and I believe myself from living with him, he was a man of heroic virtue. That's my reflections.